Hi guys, thank you very much for joining here today for an interview. And today we have a special guest. He has a major in BAIT. It stands for Business Analytics Information Technology.
Correct.
And yeah, we're very happy to have him here for an interview. Could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone, my name is Kenan Guan. I am a junior at Rutgers University and I am a double major in BAIT and computer science. And last summer I was an intern at a accounting, consulting and tax company called Crow, and I worked on their financial crime and digital security team, and next summer I'll be working for the same company again on their data analytics advisory team.
Wow. Whenever you're doing a double major, obviously you're taking more classes and there are more things to focus in terms of your academics. What are some of the advice that you would give to any student who are thinking about doing a double major?
First thing is to definitely plan it out in advance. What we do is something called a 4-year planner. A lot of freshmen are recommended to do that, and I certainly recommend anyone to plan out all the courses you need. You should definitely know what each major requires in order to graduate. And then from there, once you can see whether or not you're able to fit within however many years you want to, like 4 years, for example, making sure it's not like going to take 6 years to do it when you don't want to do that, right? From there, I would recommend to decide whether you really are willing to commit to both majors, and specifically for BAIT and CS, you don't really need to do both. Let's say you want to be a software engineer, you don't need to do both. It's not really practical.
So could you just briefly introduce what is BAIT?
So BAIT stands for Business Analytics and Information Technology, and the focus of it at a very high level is the intersection between business and technology. How can we leverage technology and use it to solve business problems? A lot of it has to deal with using hard skills, Python, or a little bit of R, SQL, Tableau, which is a visualization tool that many BAIT majors use, and using those hard skills, and then being able to translate that and be able to kind of use those in the correct scenarios and to solve business things. And so what a lot of people end up doing as BAIT majors, they'll end up becoming business analysts. They work at consulting firms. Some could be at tech firms as well. Consultants are pretty popular. Advisory is really popular as well. You might find people doing data analytics instead, or business analytics. They're kind of similar. Business intelligence is another thing. I would say BAIT is pretty much how you would leverage technology for business.
What type of people would you recommend this major to?
You certainly don't need to come into the major with any skills already in your arsenal. You can certainly come in with absolutely nothing and learn from the ground up. They'll teach you that, and anyone who's really analytical, they're very prone to asking questions, digging deeper, trying to see, is there a greater meaning behind information? There's so much information out there. How can you identify what's the important information, right? If you're analytical, if you're very curious, and you're really getting into the little details, the finer details is something I'd say for BAIT majors.
I think it was important to mention how you don't really have to have any knowledge or any background information before choosing a BAIT major, because you can learn it once you get here, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a great part. You don't really have to worry too much about whether am I a good fit for this major. As long as you are willing to put the work and you're willing to work for it, it's not a big problem. So yeah, is there any other skill set that you learn while being a BAIT major?
Yeah. A lot of these hard skills you can learn online. So don't be too daunted by, is it too late to learn this skill? It's never too late to learn anything. People are always learning, right? It's always about being curious and just learning as much as possible. So it's never too late to learn. But to answer your question about specific skills, beyond the hard skills I mentioned, there's programming languages, they're used from BAIT majors, but they're not obviously as in depth as CS majors would use them for. BAIT majors would mainly use programming languages like Python just to visualize some data, they make pretty charts and stuff like that, or find certain statistics. Excel is extremely important. If you want to learn something now, it's certainly Excel, and because every company uses it. My last internship, I used it every single day. Many other BAIT majors say the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is great. All right, so we just talked about what the BAIT major is. about, and what are some of the routes that you can take as a big major student. And let's now talk about what are some of the internships that you can do as a big major student.
BAIT majors in general, they, like I said before, they might take up business analyst internships, some kind of data role generally. But you can find a variety of people in different places. Like you can find them in tax, healthcare, you can find them in tech, find them anywhere. BAIT's quite a versatile major in that regard. Me personally, I interned at a consulting company last summer called Crow, and I worked specifically within their financial crime and digital security team. And on that team, our main goal was to help our clients implement anti-money laundering systems. So usually these clients are banks, and they're trying to have a system in place where if you had a customer, you need to do your due diligence on the customer, which just means finding their information, their address, name, stuff like that, right? Income. And the system, what it will do, it will, kind of rate the customer whether they're a high-risk person, meaning that they're likely to commit fraud, or a low-risk person, which means they're probably not going to do anything risky. You don't need to, research them or look into them any further.
Wow.
So that's kind of the systems that we played around with and kind of helped our clients implement.
Cool.
And tool-wise, I use a lot of Excel to help the clients kind of understand what kind of thresholds or what kind of information they really needed to know in order to make the decisions on how to set up the system. But that was my first internship.
Wow.
And then luckily enough, next summer I'll be working at the same company again, except I moved over from consulting to advisory, and I'll be in their data analytics team.
Wow. Obviously, when it comes to internship, it's not just about applying and get it, right? There are multiple steps that you take before you get the internship as an official role. And yeah, I think it'll be good to kind of just go over like what you did in terms of getting those internships.
The application process is a very tedious one. It's worse than colleges, applying to colleges. I think the biggest thing that happens, a lot of people will feel quite behind, or they might start comparing themselves to other people. Especially if you're on LinkedIn, you'll see people saying, I'm excited to announce that I'm working at Microsoft or I'm working at Google, and you're like, wow, I haven't even got anything yet. And it's quite easy to feel you've fallen behind. And I think it's important to say that's not the case. And internship hunting is really a numbers game. It's something that you will find that it's really just about applying to as many places as possible. And because the rate at which you will even just get a response back is so low, it's not always because of your skill set. Maybe they just, they took enough people, or they don't have enough time to look at through everyone, so they just rejected you right on the spot. What we like to say is like rejection is like redirection. So, don't get discouraged if you get rejected, because, eventually, if you keep on applying, you don't give up, you don't feel discouraged, you will find some place for you.
Yeah, and you said it's a numbers game. Do you mind just sharing how many applications that you made, applied?
So just in this year total, I have a spreadsheet of all the internships I applied for.
Wow.
I think it was close to 100, but I didn't put everything down, so it's probably maybe 120-ish.
This year?
Yeah, just from this one recruiting season.
Nice.
I didn't hear back from the majority of them, like probably 60 of them I didn't hear back from. And then I got rejected from like 20 of them. And that was only the first round too. Like, I didn't get past into like an interview stage.
Right.
And then out of those that I got interviews from, I've only got accepted by one, which was Crow. The rest I got rejected from.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how, like numbers game, like when it comes to numbers game, people may think that, okay, so like I applied to like maybe 20, I think I applied enough. Like, I mean, if you think 20 is enough, I don't know, because there are people out there who are applying more than 50 and even 100. So
while it is also important to apply to many places as you can, it also isn't a bad thing if you don't apply to a ton as well. Because in the end, what an internship is doing is giving you experience, right? It's a formal experience that you're getting out of it. But there are many ways to get experiences without an internship. You could make your own personal projects. Any type of experience is experience. Any type of experience you do, they'll be interested in it. You could be a coach for, I did tennis coaching for a while.
Oh wow.
So like that counts as experience. I made a small project, that counts as experience. Like I was analyzing tennis data. Like that, those small things, you can work on it over the summer, where where you would normally have an internship, and still get the same experience out of it.
Even if you were to not get internship, It's not at the end of the world, but if you want to get internship, it's probably a good idea to apply to as many.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that was good information to talk about. And yeah, what are some of the tips and recommendations that you would give to any students who are looking into getting an internship or even a job?
Yeah, certainly. This is usually a big talk, especially at Rutgers, after getting internships. Probably the most common tip you might hear is like what I said earlier, like it's a numbers game. You should apply to as many as possible. Even if you don't fit all the qualifications that they list, still apply. Because in the end, when they're looking through the applicants, they're not obviously expecting you to come in with so much experience because you're just a student.
Yeah.
The main thing I think, from what I've learned, is the more you apply, the more you just learn how this process works. There's so many steps in the interview process. There's the application, the resume screening, maybe a recruiter phone call, then interviews with the managers, and then interviews with the other team, coffee chat, all this crazy stuff that happens, right? And technical interviews, all these assessments. And just just being able to get familiar with the interview process and also the application process is probably just the best thing you can get out of it, to be honest. Because, once you graduate, there's not as many roles to apply for once you graduate, but there's a ton of internships.
Right.
So a lot of people will use internships, like applications and interviews as practice. I'm not encouraging you to, if you accept an internship, to just start applying after the fact you accepted it, just because you're stealing opportunities, but certainly take every step of the process as a learning experience. And from there, getting the internship is just part of that learning experience.
Yeah, I thought that was very great advice for a lot of students out there. Thank you very much for joining our interview today. I think a lot of people got a pretty good informational content from here about being major, and I hope many students can find this informational. And also, once they get to our position, they can help other people as well. So yeah, thank you very much for joining
Thanks
our
for having
interview
me
today. And yeah, we'll be back.